I'm Charles IT. Let's begin with the economy because Ghana's economy is expected to become the 12th fastest growing economy in sub-Saharan Africa this year with an expected growth rate of 5.2%. Now, that's according to the International Monetary Fund's April 2022 Regional Economic Outlook. Charles Nixie-Yeboah takes a look at the expected growth rate of 48 sub-Saharan African countries and has come through with this report.
5.2% expected expansion in the economy in 2022 will be slightly lower than the gross domestic product growth rate recorded in 2021. This will, however, place it at a joint 12th position with Cape Verde among League of African economies. In 2021, the IMF projected a growth rate of 4.2%, but the economy expanded by 5.4% according to provisional estimates from the Ghana Statistical Service. This was as a result of strong growth in the services, particularly information, communication and technology, and agriculture, especially the fisheries subsector. In 2023, the fund forecast a growth rate of 5.1%, which will place the country in the 21st position in the League of African Economies. This is due to expected strong growth rate by most African economies. In 2022, Niger will become the fastest growing sub-Saharan African country with a growth rate of 6.9%, while Senegal will lead the League of Sub-Saharan African Economies in 2023 with a growth rate of 9.2%.
Well, government cost of borrowing and servicing existing loans is expected to increase significantly in the coming days. Now, this was after the U.S. Federal Reserve increased its interest rate by 0.5%, the highest in 22 years. George Rafi has the rest of the story.
The action by the U.S. Federal Reserve will mean that investors that were actively buying Ghana bonds will now gradually switch to purchase U.S. government papers. This is due to what some may describe as a more secured place to put their funds. Others that will still want to buy Ghana bonds may be pushing for higher interest rates. However, some may see that this is happening at an interesting time. We should not forget that investors that were actively lending to government are now pushing for higher interest rates due to the rising debt stock of the country and concerns about how the economy is being managed. But even if government decides to freeze fresh borrowings in the coming months, investors holding our bonds may push for higher interest rates. Government is planning to pay 37.4 billion Ghana cedis as interest payments by the end of this year. But based on these developments, that is expected to go up further. This may force government to cut spending in other critical areas, including the construction of that road in front of your house, to look at how it can pay and settle these debts.
Now, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers is projecting a drop of 2% in the price of liquefied petroleum gas. It anticipates LPG to sell for about 10 cedis per kilogram. The prediction comes after some users of the product raised concerns about the sporadic increase in the prices of the product, causing some to switch to charcoal and firewood. We have the Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association with us for more on this. Grateful that I could join us. Do you share in this projection by COPEC?
Yes, we do. And indeed, LPG price has seen a decrease in price. The last window, we've been selling LPG at between 10 cedi 30 pesos and 10 cedi 40 pesos. This window, we are going to sell between 10 cedis 10 pesos and 10 cedis 15 pesos. So indeed, there has been a decrease in price, though not very significant.
Well, many analysts suspect relatively low depreciation of global crude could impact this depreciation, but how sustainable can this be?
Well, even as we speak now, the indication crude oil price is stable and the cedi also becomes very stable, we are more likely to see this dwindling price rise and decrease along the line. Our projection is that we should be buying LPG at around 10 cedis, between 10 cedis and 10 cedis 50 pesos for the rest of the year. That is if the measures government has put in place to stabilize the city is able to do so, and secondly, if crude oil price don't see any escalation.
Indeed, but you've called for a removal of the taxes from LPG and other petroleum products. But, the president also warns of its impact on revenue generation. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, we heard the president, but we have always argued that the president should be able to select the product called LPG, single that product out and pick off taxes from that product. That single product should be tax-free because of the ambitious vision that the president himself has for consumption of LPG in Ghana. Of all the petroleum products, it's only LPG that the president singled out in 2018 and said that we should be able to double consumption by 2030. Our president did not single out diesel, he didn't single out aviation fuel, he didn't single out petrol, not even kerosene. He singled out LPG and has tasked the Ministry of Energy and the MPA to ensure that the consumption of LPG is doubled in 10 years. So if you set such a target, what you need to do is to take the bold measures to ensure that the price of the product comes down so that the ordinary people can afford the product. You can't achieve the double. You can't have such a target and at the same time you sit and watch price of the product going up uncontrollably. LPG is a product with an elastic demand. Any additional peso on the price of the LPG goes a long way to push away people from consuming the product. So if the president and government really mean and are very, very, very serious for the country to achieve that 50% penetration from 25% in 2018 to 50% penetration by the year 2030, then the president must take the next step. Which next step is that all taxes, as a first step, as a first commitment, all taxes on LPG must go off, so that bring the prices down and attract a lot more people into the consumption. Otherwise, it's impossible for the president's vision for the LPG sector to be achieved. Because as we speak now, the target was set in 2018. In 2019, we did an average of 30,000 metric tons per month. It came down to 29,000 metric tons in 2020. It came further down to 28,000 metric tons on the average in 2021. And our projection this year is that if taxes on the product are not removed, we are more likely to come down further to about 26,000 metric tons a month. So already the president target is out of here. It's not going to be achieved. If that bold initiative, that bold measure is not taken, it's impossible to achieve the president's target.
Indeed, and we shall keep an eye on how developments go. We're grateful that you could join us, Gabriel Kumi, Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association. Well, we are just a few weeks to the close season when Ghana's seas will be shut to all forms of fishing activity. This lifelong practice by government is part of measures to increase the country's fish stock, which has declined by around 20,000 tons, even though fishing efforts has increased. Meanwhile, fishing communities in the coastal belt have raised concerns over their livelihood, fearing it will be impacted deeply by the close season this year. Joining us to discuss is Deputy Director of Research at the Ministry of Fisheries and Agriculture, Enoch Boydu Amu. We're grateful, Enoch, that you could join us. Each and every year in the close season, we get fisherfolk raise concerns over the impact of the closed season on the economy. I just wanted to take a look at, some of the concerns that they raised with us, JoyNews, after which we shall find out from you whether or not there is an alternative livelihood program in place for these fisherfolk.
We would be glad if authorities close the sea in May and opens it in June for us. You still find trawlers on shore during the closure of the sea. How will they deal with the trawler operators? What information will be given to the trawler operators? They kill all the fishes with their method of fishing before the sea is opened. This is very disturbing and it takes away the motive behind the closure. Authorities must close the sea to both local fisherfolk and the foreigners. Secondly, during the closure, life becomes very difficult.
We are suffering. After the closure of the sea last year, many of the youth in the community resorted to stealing. Fishing is our source of livelihood. That is what we use to educate our children. I go fishing myself, and I have 3 children. All of them go fishing as well. The timelines for the closure this year will greatly affect us as compared to the previous years. So we are pleading with the authorities to reconsider their decision.
We are hungry. The situation is worrying. The May-August closure will not be favorable at all. Fishing is our only source of income. The timeline for last 2 years was okay. To be frank with you, we were happy. Many of these fishermen have entreated their leaders to speak with the ministries about their mounting fears with respect to the closure, but it appears that these efforts have been ineffective.
Looking around, this clearly tells you what these fisher folk go through on daily basis. I earlier engaged them and I was being told that last year's closure, that was within the months of July to August, was not the best. As fisher folk, they prefer the months of April and May. For Joy Business, James Ishen.
And that was a report there by James Ishen, scouting the views from the fisherfolk at Nungwa over the impending close season in July. It's quite clear that most of them, if not all of them, are raising concerns about the impact it's going to have on their livelihood. Also, we're getting the impression that this particular close season is aimed at beefing up the fish stock, which continues to deplete despite government intervention. Interestingly, though, the fisheries industry was able to rake in close to 13% of revenue somewhere 2021, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, with interventions of this nature accounting to their success. But the question now is whether or not an alternative livelihood program is in place for fisherfolk during the close season in July. Mr. Enoch Wedo joins us from the Fisheries Ministry. He's the Deputy Head of Research. We're grateful, sir, that he could join us. You've listened to these, fisherfolk. What exactly is the package for them in terms of alternative livelihood programs during the close season?
As I indicated last time we spoke, good afternoon to your listeners and to all. As we indicated last year we supported the fishermen with some numbers of rice, bags of rice, and this year it is in the Fisheries Act Section 15. Mandates us to close seasons.
Well, unfortunately, we're having issues with the connection, but we'll try and reconnect with the Deputy Head of Research for the Ministries of Fisheries and Agriculture over the close season in July. We do know, you rightly stated, that there is some form of alternative program for them. Government is issuing out relief items to the fishing communities to cushion the fisherfolk from, the economic impact of this close season. Even though it's part of measures by government to increase the fish stock, these fisherfolk are saying that it's really biting them hard when it comes to the impact on their daily lives and their personal economies. You've heard from most of these fisher folk who say that the near weeks ahead is going to be very difficult for them should the close season come in place. They're even calling for a postponement in the close season. But we do know that the sector, as we speak now, is dwindling in terms of fish stock by about 20,000 metric tons each and every year. Helping us to discuss once again, we believe this could work out for us, as the Deputy Head of Research at the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. Just before we lost you, Enoch, you're talking about the Alternative Livelihood Program for the fisher folk. Kindly expand on that for us.
So, as I was saying, for 2022, we will keep on discussing with the fishermen. That we will provide, as I said, last year we provided rice and oil, but this year it's going to be the same. Rice and oil. Already there are plans ahead, far advanced, to get the items procured and all that, so that fishermen can be cushioned. But ultimately, it's a livelihood issue we are talking about. So we expect that the fishermen will also prepare themselves adequately towards this end by ensuring that they get themselves prepared and be able to support themselves for the period.
Well, the close season, we know, is part of measures to increase the fish stock, which is still in a depreciable state. How confident are you in improved numbers this time around?
So what we are saying that the close season, looking at the degree of the stock, the dwindling nature of the stocks, it is a medium to long-term measure which will help recover the stocks. So we are not looking at 1 year, then all the stock will be recovered, or 3 years the stock will be recovered. But it is a hope that as we close the season for 4 or 5 years to the next 10 years, we will recover, because evidence has shown that, and then the fishermen will attest that when we closed the sea last year, when they went back, fish that they have not seen for a while, some stocks that have not been seen for a while, were sighted. These are indications that shows that the stocks are coming back. It's marginal, and we don't expect immediate results. That's what we want to alert people, that we don't expect immediate results, because as they spawn, the fish give birth within the period. The smaller ones are able to escape and go and hide, and then the bigger ones are landed. They will reproduce themselves, and then over time, we'll be able to get that fisheries back.
Well, we know that the close season takes care of canoe fishing. What about industrial trawlers? At least that's the observation that fisher folk we spoke to have made. What about them?
No, so as we announced, while the fishermen are doing 1st July to 31st July 2022, the trawlers, the trawl vessels, are doing 1st July to 31st of August. So they are doing 2 months, while the fishermen, the artisanals, are doing 1 month.
But what about the surveillance? Because most of these fisher folks say that even during their close season, we still have pockets of them, on the sea fishing.
Honestly, we've seen this, we've heard of these allegations, but so we made a minister to call for we have this vessel monitoring system in our office in Tema, where we monitor via satellite what the activities of all the vessels. So we called for it, and then we realized that within the period, none of the vessels moved. In fact, there were evidence of movement, and the movement we were informed was that they had to go to Tema to service go to Takrady rather, to service their equipment. And we checked. We wanted to just verify whether they were within the period that we asked them to go, they did trawling or not. So we checked their speed on the movement, and the speed showed that it was a movement speed, not a movement for trawling. So this one also helped us to abreast and to confirm that within the period, none of the vessels did the trawling.
And as always, we shall follow on the ministries for information ahead of the close season and even during the close season. In the meantime, we're grateful that you could join us. Mr. Enoch Boedi, Deputy Head of Research at the Ministries of Fisheries and Aquaculture. You're still watching Marketplace. Now, MultiChoice is expected to continue investing in Ghana's film and arts industry, which will impact positively on the country's economy. The company last year launched Aquaba Magic channel to showcase authentic Ghanaian content and has so far created over 5,000 direct and indirect jobs. Head of West Africa in charge of content, Dr. Busola, made this known at the first anniversary of Aquaba Magic and launch of Aquaba Magic Ebusia channel in Accra. Correspondent Kwame Yanka has more in this report.
A year ago, MultiChoice Group launched Aquaba Magic on DSTV and GoTV and later Showmax to revive Ghana's arts and film industry. Having invested over $1 million within the period, content from Ghana has lived up to the billing, making a strong case for a second dedicated channel. Executive Head West Africa in charge of content, Dr. Busola Tejumola says, despite all the challenges, Aquaba Magic has commissioned 10 series.
We have 13 feature films currently in production and on air. When we launched this channel in 2021, in March 2021, we set very high targets for the channel, and I must say that Ghana didn't disappoint. In the 1 year, in fact, in the first month that the channel was on air, Aquaba Magic was the 8th most watched channel on DSTV in Ghana, and continues to be one of the top most 20 channels watched in Ghana. I think that's a real feat for a channel, a 1-year channel. As we mentioned earlier, our commission content continues to break barriers and excite our customers.
Chair of MultiChoice Ghana, Richard Darko, shares how Nollywood contributed $600 million in 2019 to the GDP of Nigeria.
The Africa Magic channels accelerated the Nigerian film industry into a major contributor to the GDP of that country. Nollywood produces more than 50 movies a week, and contributed in 2019 $600 million to the GDP of Nigeria. Guys, that's got to tell us something. We've got to be able to make the same sorts of contributions to Ghana. In addition, Nollywood is one of the priority sectors identified in the economic recovery and growth plan of Nigeria, with a planned $1 billion in export revenue. I believe the Ghana film industry can also become a major contributor to our GDP and economic growth.
Managing Director of MultiChoice Ghana, Alex Ochi, says these channels will continue to churn out quality entertainment.
Since the channel started airing on DSTV and later on GoTV, Aquaba Magic has commissioned several productions, including Dede, To Have and to Hold, Inspector Bediakon, Accra Medic, Date My Family, among several others. We've invested over $1 million in just 1 year. I think you can clap. So with all our productions shot in Ghana by Ghanaians, the standard of living and livelihood of various communities have been positively impacted.
Deputy Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Marco Krekumanti, shares government's commitment in movie production as President Akufo-Addo launched a $25 million pitch concert in 2021. He says government will address regulatory issues as well as help get investors for the industry.
At the moment, we are working on the culture policy. And I'm sure you all know about the Creative Arts School coming up in Kumasi. National Film Authority is operationalized. The Creative Arts Agency is about starting. The Creative Arts Agency will give birth to the Creative Arts Fund that will support practitioners like you. A few weeks ago, President Akufo-Addo went to London and launched Destination Ghana. The idea is to reignite year of return beyond the return, which the creative industry would also benefit from.
Meanwhile, channel manager Aquaba Magic, Kennedy Denchapa, says more platforms, including digital ones, will give the industry extra mileage.
There
with every opportunity, every space, there are challenges. Our biggest challenge is talent. We are looking for the next big star. We are looking for the next big producer, and we continue to support them. But from government, we say regulation needs to be tightened up. Piracy needs to be controlled, because we need to show Ghana to Ghanaians first. We cannot continuously be having foreign content on our screens. It's important that regulation is adhered to.
MultiChoice is expected to invest in people through several initiatives that will unearth more talent across the continent.
We have more news on myjoyonline.com. That'll be all for the bulletin. I'm Charles Aite. Many thanks for watching.